Happy Saturday, everyone. Welcome to the Cafe on Air podcast. As always, I'm your host, Big Italy 42. I'm going to recap some of last night's action, and there were two players. If you had these two players, you won money. If you didn't have these two players, you did not win money. As Spencer and I were talking about on the podcast yesterday, especially on DraftKings, you needed to have some DeMarcus Cousins exposure, and I certainly hope that you did. 39 points, 24 rebounds, and 1 assist. Yes, those are not typos. Really, 39 and 24. A monster game. Sixers not only kept that one close, but did end up winning the game 114-107. So Cousins with just an absolutely ridiculous performance. Russell Westbrook with another triple-double, 29, 10, and 12. Kind of a weak triple-double as far as what we've seen from Westbrook recently, but definitely more than enough to pay off his tag. The two guys combined had about 140 DraftKings points last night. So, especially with Golden State resting all their main starters outside of Draymond Green, you had a ton of value. It was easy to get those two guys in by the end of the night. So, hopefully you did just that, and hopefully you cashed in on those huge games from those two. And we're going to move on to tonight's action. Taking a look at some Vegas lines. We've got Boston at Indiana, 193.5 point total. Indiana, 8.5 point favorites. Best record over the past month for Indiana, 13-2 right now. So playing great basketball. Boston, once again, will be without Isaiah Thomas. So you got to think Boston not in a great spot here. Indiana playing great defense and not a lot of offense on Boston's end. We'll see if Evan Turner can maintain his hot shooting from last night. Sacramento at Washington. Biggest point total on the night, 210. Washington favored by 9 in this one. Next game up, Brooklyn at Philadelphia. Brooklyn a 6.5 point favorite, no surprise there. 194.5 point total. The smallest total on the night, Milwaukee at Memphis. 6 point favorite for Memphis, just 184.5 point total. Detroit at Utah, another small spread there. 185 points, 7.5 point favorite for Utah there. Rudy Gobert, the big question there. Listed as questionable right now with the ankle injury, so we're hoping that he goes. If he does not go, it's going to bump up some guys. I'll get to that in just a minute. And then the most ridiculous spread I've seen all season. The Golden State Warriors, 19.5 point favorites at home against the terrible New York Knicks. The Division II NCAA team, New York Knicks. 201 point total in this one. Vegas obviously expecting this one to get out of hand very quickly. Saw some stars rest last night for Golden State. Be wary of that once again tonight. No word officially that anyone's going to rest, but definitely some speculation. So you never know. Maybe you only see these guys each play 20 minutes. We've seen it before with the Warriors, especially games of this nature. Maybe the guys just don't play full complement of minutes, even if everyone is in. So be cautious with your Golden State players. All right, I'm going to go ahead and kick things off here, talking both FanDuel and DraftKings here. And your top overall play at point guard for me tonight is going to be John Wall. Especially on DraftKings, just has an absolutely tremendous price, just $8,500. Going against Sacramento, really struggling against point guards. John Wall kind of seems like a man on a mission right now. He's finally playing up to the level he was playing before in his last two games. Just 59 total minutes, but 86 total DraftKings points. So, monster point per minute guy right now. If he plays a full complement of minutes tonight, then you've got to expect another big game. So, got to love John Wall, $8,500. A little bit more expensive on FanDuel, but it's easy to fit him in. He's only $9K, so quite a bit of cheap guys tonight. Not a whole lot of studs is the real thing. You don't have a LeBron James, you don't have a Russell Westbrook, no James Harden, so easy to go with a balanced type of lineup, and 9K is not going to hurt you at all. You could go Steph Curry route. Not for me unless I'm going to go in a single bullet tournament. It is his birthday, Pi Day, 314. So if you believe in that sort of thing, maybe get yourself some extra exposure, but 20-point spread. Knicks don't have anyone that can guard him. They don't have anyone that can guard Klay Thompson. They don't have anyone that can guard anyone. So you expect this game will get out of hand at some point. I don't know that I'm willing to pay Steph Curry's price tag tonight due to those factors. So moving on a little bit further, this is more of a DraftKings play than a FanDuel play. Mentioned him the other day, and he had a monster game. Michael Carter-Williams, listed at $7,000 on DraftKings, $78 on FanDuel. Now, he's obviously not in an ideal matchup against Memphis, against Mike Conley, the bigs they have down low, but he's getting big minutes, got solid usage rate. He's distributing the ball well. He's rebounding the ball well. He's got 17 rebounds over his last two games, 10 assists. I mean, he's a guy that can fill up a stat sheet in a hurry. 36 or more fantasy points on DraftKings, 3 straight games. I think he's a great tournament play. No real need to risk him in your cash games, but he's a guy with a ton of upside, so I like him quite a bit. A little bit down further from him, George Hill. Got to like against Boston, who's given up some big games to opposing point guards. George Hill, the concern with him, though, is his minutes. 27, 24, 29, 25, and 31 over his last 5 games. He's doing well per minute, but got to wonder how many minutes he's really going to see tonight. If he ends up playing 30-plus, I would absolutely love him, but on that off chance he's playing 25 to 28, he's a little bit more of a risky play that you'd like. But you still like to think he's going to get you your 25-plus fantasy points, which should be fine for your cash games. Right below him, Alexei Shved, 5,600 FanDuel, 55 on DraftKings. The guy's playing great. After his blow-up game against Utah, I looked back into some stats, saw his low rebounding numbers per 36 for his career, but this may actually be a trend that's going to continue. Seems his last 2 games, 35 total points, 21 rebounds, 13 assists. The guy's doing it all. He's playing big minutes. He's got a high usage rate. The Knicks really don't have anyone else that could or should be scoring, should be running the point, should be monitoring the offense. I mean, he's the only legitimate option that they have outside of maybe Andrea Bargnani right now. So I'm going to be riding him tonight. Like his value price there, 55 and 56. Going to be a popular play, and for good reason. If you're looking at the mess at Philadelphia at point guard, Ish Smith versus Isaiah Cannon. Ish Smith is the guy that's playing much better. Over his last 2 games, 33 and 28 fantasy points on FanDuel. And Isaiah Cannon, not quite there. I mean, 21 and 13. Similar price points everywhere. I think this is an obvious decision for you if you want one of these 2 guys against the weak defense in the backcourt for Brooklyn with Darren Williams and company. 5,200 for Ish Smith versus 51 for Isaiah Cannon on FanDuel. And on DraftKings, pretty much the same amount of difference. I mean, it's 5,000 for Ish Smith, 46 for Isaiah Cannon. A little bit more of a discount there, but I don't think it's really worth it. I'm going to pay a little bit more and go with Ish Smith if I'm choosing between those 2. One other guy I'm looking at here down low, it's going to be Ray McCallum. Not a great matchup, but he's got a solid floor, right around 20 points. We saw about as bad as his game gets last night. Obviously, DeMarcus Cousins was just dominating the game. He didn't need to do a whole lot, but 31 minutes, 9 points, 1 rebound, 8 assists, 19 fantasy points. So that's about his floor. It's a fine cash game play. If you're looking for a GPP guy, you can look at Marcus Smart, but not for me tonight. In a slow pace game, Indiana playing great defense. I'm not investing too much in him tonight. Over to shooting guard, there's really no top option here. I mean, you've got Klay Thompson, obviously in a great spot, but a 20-point spread. Not a cash game guy for me. I don't anticipate due to that huge spread. You could look at Giannis Antetokounmpo, who is a shooting guard only on FanDuel, small forward on DraftKings. 6,900. Once again, not a great matchup, but I mean, you could look his way. He's usually got a floor right on 25 points. We've seen his ceiling, 50 points 3 games ago, so he's there. As much as I hate to say it, but you're going to have to go with Rodney Stuckey tonight, especially on FanDuel where you need to play 2 shooting guards. There's not a whole lot of options, and 40, 54, 27, 26 over his last 4 games. He's playing great basketball. You're not necessarily expecting a 40-point performance, but you'll take something in 25 to 30 range against a less than solid Boston defense tonight. So Indiana, as we know, not a whole lot of great scoring options. So Stuckey kind of carrying the load right now. A little bit down the line there, you've got Avery Bradley. Had a really bad game last night. I think his ownership levels will be down tonight. Again, not an ideal matchup, but 5,100 on DraftKings is a great price for him once again. Getting big minutes. Yes, he struggled from the field, but Evan Turner was also taking a lot of shots. He was getting it done, so I don't expect Evan Turner to be scoring 30 points again tonight. But if you want to go that route, Evan Turner, 5,500 on shooting guard, 53 at point guard on DraftKings. I don't mind it. I'm not going to be searching out Evan Turner, but if you want to go that route in the tournament, I think you do much worse. Bradley Beal in one of the best matchups on the board against Sacramento, who has been awful against shooting guards. You could go his route, 5,700, FanDuel 55 on DraftKings. Below that, there's really not many good options at all. You've got Jason Richardson, rested last night, rested his old legs, 4,300 on FanDuel. A little bit cheaper on DraftKings at 3,700. I could stomach him a little bit more there. I think he makes for a better play that route, but Once again, not investing heavily. This slate in general just not looking very appealing tonight at all. Not many value plays. Not even really any top options you can feel good about. So maybe a primarily GPP type of night for me here. Small forward, pretty much the usual suspects. I mean, seemingly Rudy Gay playing almost every night, it seems, every time. And 8,200 here at shooting guard, or small forward, on FanDuel. He's cheaper on DraftKings once again, as we've seen the trend recently. He's sitting there at 7,600 on DraftKings. So I think you could definitely look at him there. But Washington, a fairly solid defensive team. Pretty good against small forwards, actually. I can see Rudy Gay. I'm going to be targeting much more on DraftKings and FanDuel. Gordon Hayward. Detroit has been tough against small forwards over the past few weeks, but if Rudy Gobert sits out, I will have a ton of Gordon Hayward and Derek Favors. Gordon Hayward at 7,600 on FanDuel and 7,600 also on DraftKings. So I'm sorry, 78 on FanDuel, 76 on DraftKings. So I think he is your de facto top option if you're not going to go with Rudy Gay. Draymond Green at 8K in this matchup, no thanks. We saw him last night, only played 20 minutes, a little bit confusing. I don't know what to make of that. I'm not investing $8,000 of my salary tonight to find out. Chris Middleton, a guy who, if you're looking at trends, 43-20, 44-20, 44-23. So that tells you what that means right there. Seth Yates said it on Twitter. He posted a little picture there. So seems like Destiny is saying Chris Middleton due for a 40-burger tonight. But we'll see. Not a ideal matchup, but not a bad matchup. So I think he'll have low ownership percentage. His price is jacked up all the way to $7,000 on FanDuel, so a little bit prohibitive there. But once again, no studs you really are forcing into your lineup tonight. So 6,700 shooting guard on DraftKings. I think he's a fine tournament play. Probably won't be going that way in cash. Robert Covington had himself a nice game last night, his first one in a while. I'm not necessarily expecting that type of big performance tonight, but at 5,500 at small forward on FanDuel and 52 at power forward on DraftKings, I think he's a fine play. Once again, if you need a cash game play, Jeff Green, 5,000 at small forward on FanDuel and 54 on DraftKings may be a little much for me, but I don't think he's a bad play. Should get you right around 20, a little bit more of an upside there. Cheaper guys, there's a couple people I'm looking at here. I'm looking at CJ Miles, who is sitting at $4,400 on FanDuel. Played 30 minutes last game, just 22 fantasy points, which is plenty for a cash game if you're going CJ Miles. And the problem with him, he does have a very low floor. More of a tournament guy, obviously. But I think that he's a fine play tonight against this team, this Boston team who struggles against many positions. So small forward, once again on DraftKings, he's only 4,000. I like CJ Miles a great deal tonight if you're going the cheap route. One other cheap guy I'm going to mention here, going to see if he gets to start, Rodney Hood. 21 and 25 fantasy points his last two games, 25 and 33 minutes played. Doing well, very, very cheap, 39 on FanDuel and 3,600 on DraftKings. So he is my bargain bin play, but I do still slightly prefer CJ Miles if I'm going with one of those two in a tournament. Power forward, pretty straightforward here. Your top option is going to be Derek Favors against that tired, weak defensive interior for Detroit. I like him a ton, especially if Rudy Gobert ends up sitting out. Nerlens Noel, once again, Spencer Lindbach and I talked about him last night. We said he was a great play. Still the same price, 75 on FanDuel, 68 on DraftKings. Great price. The guy is seemingly a lock for 30-plus every night. High 30s, low 40s almost every night. Last night, only 28 minutes, 39 fantasy points. Absolutely love Nerlens Noel tonight. Can kind of do it all. Brooklyn, not a great defensive team in the interior either. So, got to go that route if you're looking for a high upside guy with a nice floor. Noel and Favors probably going to be some pretty popular plays tonight. You want to go a little bit contrarian, you can look at Greg Monroe, but at 8,300, not a ton of upside there. Utah's a great defensive team right now. I think the best in the league. It's hard to argue that. So I'm not going to be actually targeting anyone from Detroit tonight, not even in tournaments. I think that's a losing proposition. I'm going to be moving on from those guys. I don't blame you if you want to try Monroe. Maybe if Gobert's out, maybe you go with a Andre Drummond, but not for me tonight on this short slate. I'm going to go with some safer plays. At power forward, you have a few other options. Thaddeus Young with his revenge game there, if you believe in that factor, against Philadelphia. 28 fantasy points his last game. Has been alternating big minutes and medium minutes, I guess. 33-27, 33-23. He's not producing at a huge level, but he's a guy that can fill up the stat sheet. going against his former team. Not a good team, as we know, at any position. So I think he's a more than adequate play at 5,800 tonight, 5,500 on DraftKings. A little bit lower from him, you've got, obviously, Andrea Bargnani, 5,500 and 5,600. I think he's on a fine spot. Looks like he's more of a cash game play. Doesn't have a ton of upside, but should get you around 20 to 25 fantasy points you would anticipate. Brandon Bass at 5,800, getting big minutes, but Boston's been playing a lot of games recently. 5,200 on DraftKings. I'm going to be a little bit hesitant with Brandon Bass tonight. If he just fits and you want to change it up for Bargnani, I don't mind it, but I'm not going to be actively targeting him tonight. Ursan Ilyasova, another option, 4,400. Once again, not a great matchup for the Milwaukee Bucks. Someone's going to have to score the basketball, though, and he's been rebounding the ball well. He's been scoring, been getting minutes. Tough matchup against Indiana. Put up 36 fantasy points two days ago. So you got to like his upside. You don't love his floor, but he's seemingly locked into some minutes. So 4,800 on DraftKings, not a bad play there either. Looking over to center, and this one's pretty straightforward. You don't love the price tag for DeMarcus Cousins on FanDuel. You don't love the matchup against Marcin Gortat, but 10,500 coming off of quite possibly the best game of his entire career. Obviously, a much better matchup last night. Did play more minutes than you like to think, 40, but been playing the low 30s before that, so I'm not terribly concerned. He's a young guy. Did have a 5-game stretch there where he sat out 2 games and didn't play more than 29 in any of the games a few weeks ago, so I'm not too worried about fatigue with him here. I think he's still a fine play. I will absolutely be still targeting him on DraftKings. Like I mentioned earlier, if you had him yesterday, you won some money. He had an enormous game last night, 76.5 fantasy points. You don't expect that again, but he always has 50-point upside whenever he touches the court. And as we know, Sacramento, you've got Rudy Gay and you've got DeMarcus Cousins. No one else really a reliable scorer there. So I'll be targeting him a lot more on DraftKings, but he's certainly in play for me. I mentioned Rudy Gobert, questionable for tonight. Not sure if I'm going to go that route unless I know he's completely healthy, no minutes limits, anything like that. 8,300 on DraftKings, pretty prohibitive there. But 77 on FanDuel, I think, is a fine price for him. Although, to be a little safer and also get a decent amount of upside, I think I would prefer either Marc Gasol at 7,600, who rested last game, should be plenty rested for this one. Milwaukee, not a good interior. Or Brook Lopez at 7,200. We saw what DeMarcus Cousins did to this Philly interior last night. Lopez obviously not the talent that DMC is, but 15-14, 15-9, 19-10, and 19-13 in his last 4 games. The guy's thriving back in the starting lineup. Will be a popular play and should be a popular play tonight. 7,200, only 67 on DraftKings, so he will be pretty much locked into my lineups on DraftKings tonight at that price. Not a lot of cheap options I like. You go the Marcin Gortat route if you'd like. 6,700 on FanDuel, a little bit more expensive at 71 on DraftKings. No thanks there. Like I said, I would prefer Brook Lopez. If you need a cheap guy with some upside, and certainly don't take this as a cash game play. Mentioned him a couple games ago. He's been playing very well over his last 4. 35, 20, dud with 11, but it was against New Orleans, so you kind of let that slide. 28 and 36 fantasy points. Zaza Pachulia for the Milwaukee Bucks tonight. Obviously a tough matchup. I've mentioned it a bunch of times, but you're going to need to get yourself someone from this Milwaukee team because someone's going to have a game. $4,900 on FanDuel there, and on DraftKings just $4K. So if you need a punt at center, which isn't a route that I'll be attempting to take tonight, I'm going to be trying to get Brook Lopez and or DeMarcus Cousins into my lineups tonight. But if you have to go cheap, if you love the rest of your lineup, I think he's about as good of a punt as you're going to find on the board tonight. You've got guys like Cole Aldrich who are playing really well, but not his minutes very inconsistent. You don't love the matchup, especially if Andrew Bogut's back. No thanks there for me. Everybody else just too unpredictable. Only other guy I would consider, Roy Hibbert, has played very well against the Boston Celtics this year. Keep him in mind for tournaments. Don't you dare play him in your cash games. If you do, let me know where you're playing so I can scoop up your head-to-heads. He's a very risky play. I mean, he could go out for 40. He could score 9 to 11 fantasy points. You never know what you're getting out of Roy Hibbert, but some significant upside built in him tonight. So that's going to wrap it up for the positional analysis. Now I'm going to go with my premier play of the day. And that's going to be, once again, the player that I think is going to crush value. I'm going to give you a guy on DraftKings. I'm going to give you a guy on FanDuel. The guy that I think is just going to explode, going to crush his salary. And on FanDuel, it's got to be... Man, this one's tough. I'm going to go with Thaddeus Young. 5,800, he's going to have himself a nice game against his old team. I like his confidence level here. He's playing well, and really not a whole lot of resistance there at the 4. You like to think Brook Lopez will get Nerlens Noel for the most part tonight, so the seemingly tough matchup is obviously belonging to Brook Lopez. I think he'll be fine in that. I think Thaddeus Young gets some leftovers, like his price. I think he has himself a very fine day there. And over on DraftKings, my premier play is going to be John Wall. Still 8,500. He's got 50-point upside any time. And if you take out Steph Curry out of the mix due to the blowout factor and all these other factors, the Kings maybe doesn't need to do much. Maybe Steve Kerlin lets him play 20, 25 minutes. Going to be hard for him to pay off that tag. I think John Wall will not only be the highest scorer at point guard, but I don't think it'll be particularly close. I'm going with John Wall there. Next up, biggest bust. You got to have your guys that are going to be your bust. The guys you don't trust, the guys you're afraid are going to blow up in your face and kill your lineups. And for me, I'm going to go with Klay Thompson at shooting guard. He's 7,200 on FanDuel, and outside of 2 straight 30-point performances, which were barely good for 4x his salary against Detroit and Phoenix, he did sit out last night, but 25, 18, 29, 20, and those were all games he played 30-plus minutes. Don't expect him to play huge minutes tonight in what should be a blowout. Think he's going to be a bust. Don't doubt that he'll have plenty of point per minute production, but overall, factoring in salary, no thanks for me. I've got Klay Thompson as my bust on FanDuel. Over on DraftKings, this one's going to be tough. There's some pretty soft pricing over there right now. You're going to look at the guys who, give you the great matchups, but there's also some guys who are a little bit overpriced, so you got to pick your spot and the guy that's going to bust on you. And for me, it's going to be Steph Curry. I'm going once again with that. I don't doubt, once again, he'll have a good game, but at 9,600, no thanks for me. I'll take the $1,100 discount and go with John Wall. If you are playing a ton of GPPs, go ahead and play Steph Curry in a couple. I know if I have a bunch of lineups, I will, but not cash game playable for me. I think more risk than reward with this 20-point spread, so no thanks for me. Make sure to check me out on Twitter at BigItaly42. And check out our site at DF Cafe, dailyfantasycafe.com. We've got some great content up there right now. A lot of previews for MLB, things of that nature, lots of things about NBA. So definitely check that out. Appreciate you hanging out here once again, and I will see you guys on Monday.